Welcome, I'm Michael Bickert. Thanks for joining me today as we explore concepts with the objective of improving your management skills and growing your business. Do you have a notepad? Do you have a pen handy? If not, pause the video and grab those now because I want you to make a commitment that you'll jot down some notes. You will write down at least one action item that you can implement in your business today. Remember, that's what this is all about. Let's move our businesses forward through implementation. Who is asking you the best questions? What is the source of the best questions for you? I ascribe credit to Tony Robbins for popularizing the notion of the importance of asking good questions. I think he may have a book to that effect. But if not, he certainly covers that topic at length in various materials that he goes through. Asking good questions, we can all agree, will stimulate your mind to come up with new ideas and solve problems, and in our case, drive the businesses forward. So I'm asking you to consider, where are the best sources of questions in your business? And I was inspired to think about this based on something that happened in my business recently, and I'll get into that in just a moment. But I'll give you some ideas of where you may be able to get good questions there, or what sort of things in your business might stimulate good questions. For example, what about report cards and performance analytics? Just reviewing those, is that leading to good questions for you? What about performance evaluations of your various people? And do questions come out of that? What about other meetings, staff meetings and sales meetings? Are there good questions arising from that? What about customer feedback? Like you get reviews or testimonials, complaints, support tickets, these types of things. Are you getting feedback from customers that are stimulating questions in your business? Maybe you've got some kind of mystery shopping process set up, and you've taken some of the advice I've given for ways to inspect your expectations and have third parties get involved and viewing your business through fresh perspectives. And all of these things should stimulate good questions. These are just feedback loops. You need to have mechanisms. What about suggestions for improvement? Who's making suggestions for improvement in your business? I mean, you I hope will agree with me when I say you need to be innovating. You need to not be complacent and accept that today's value of your product or service will be sufficient in the market forever. When you look back over the history of commerce, things are getting better, they're improving. Typically, prices go down and value goes up, or rather, the amount of benefits you get from a product can improve and increase over time, even though the product price stays the same or goes down. That's innovation. And is that happening? Or are you experiencing that with your products or services? So we can agree that you need to be innovating. You need to be offering more value in the market in some way. And what I experience is a lot of this is born of good questions. The questions are the stimulus. They are the catalyst to producing greater value. And so, as I mentioned a moment ago, I just share, no details really with you, but I was involved in a performance evaluation with a couple of my managers very recently, and we were going through the report card of a specific department, and all of a sudden the two managers got to talking to one another, and I was just observing this, and they were going through some details about a particular way that the data was measured and how it was impacted and what might be done to affect that next month and what had been done in the past and so on. And one of the managers apologized for the digression. He said, "Oh, sorry, okay, let's get back to it." And I stopped the meeting at that point and I said, "Well, just a second here. I want to really make this point clear. You never need to apologize for what just transpired. That is what this is all about. Our performance evaluation, our review of the numbers is not about spreadsheets and data on a screen that we just read and review. The whole purpose of doing this is to stimulate our minds, to drive innovation, to ask good questions. And those questions that were being asked at that moment delighted me. And in fact, invariably in these performance evaluation meetings, that's exactly what happens. Is we allot about 1 hour, we schedule about 1 hour for these, and we say, they can take place in far less time depending on the situation. It's fine if it only lasts 15 minutes. But if what I've observed is that it very frequently, before you know it, the hour's almost up. And really, we just want to summarize in this particular, just to give you an idea, in these performance evaluations, we pull up a report card, we look at the numbers, we compare over time how things are going, the trajectory of various performance analytics. You can watch our videos about report cards and get an idea for what I'm talking about there. But the manager presents his own data to me and tells me why. He explains why the trajectory is what it is. He explains why the actual results are what they are, and whether they're improving or whether they're diminishing. He explains why, and he doesn't always know why. Sometimes there's a little bit of conjecture and speculation that occurs, and then we say an action item. We say, okay, well, that's something you want to explore a little bit further on your own time. Go and delve into that, and they may need to later meet with accounting or another department to figure out what's going on. Sometimes the accuracy of the information or the relevancy of the data on the report card is in question. But before you know it, 1 hour is covered. What I was trying to get at is that just to review the numbers, just to point out, well, here's my score. I've gone up, I've gone down. We also project what is it going to be next month, and we set targets for the future. All of that could be done in 5 or 10 minutes, really. What is taking up that time where the time sort of flies and before you know it, an hour's gone by, are these quote unquote digressions, this going away from what's on the screen and exploring a little bit deeper. That's what this is all about. So that is an example. That's what prompted me to explore this concept with you, because I was wondering, for those of you who are not doing performance evaluations, if you don't have those regularly scheduled, then you are missing out on a benefit that we have in our business to get good questions asked and to start to explore and use your imagination and your abstract reasoning and problem-solving skills as a team, collaboration, and all this communication that happens. So I started thinking, well, that's not the only way we do that. There are other types of meetings we have as well that bring these questions out. And I've recommended in other videos, and I've recommended to every organization that you have some sort of formal mechanism through which your team can provide feedback to you, to the executives, to management in general for improvement. And I've called it the proverbial suggestion box, in that there should probably be some sort of digital mechanism through which you provide that to your team. But not only that, I've made the suggestion that you should tell them that this is an expectation. In fact, you are going to measure how often, and you're going to incent and reward people for how frequently and how good their suggestions are coming through, and that is a cultural expectation. So that would be another one that would, when you're looking at those suggestions, you would say, why haven't we done this? All of a sudden, it does that thing. Good questions. Why haven't we done this? Should we do this? And how could we do this? And what would be involved? What sort of investments of resources will be involved to make this improvement? And how should we prioritize this? Another one that I mentioned earlier is customer feedback mechanism loops. Like, are you looking at your Google reviews? Are you just reactive to those? Are you just sort of complacent and going, well, we get reviews from time to time on our Facebook page, we get customer support tickets that come in to our customer service agents, and we every now and then get the boss or the management may get a complaint email. Every now and then we get commendation from customers who are very happy, and you're very reactive to that, and you sort of just let that happen organically, and that's the end of it. That's not how I'd recommend handling that. You should try to guide that process and do everything you can to get good customer feedback and minimize the negative. And that's obvious, but really what I want to get you to focus on today is, are you taking advantage of that feedback mechanism to ask good questions? For example, if you did get as a manager, you receive a customer complaint email and you're reading it, that should stimulate lots of questions. Why did this happen? Why did we fail to meet expectations in this case? Why was the product quality less than normal? Was this atypical of our service, or is this perhaps more typical than I realize? Have I been making some assumptions that things are going well? Maybe this is the tip of the iceberg. Maybe this customer complaint is actually representative of a sample of your market and your customers in general, and what kind of feedback they would give. Not everyone takes the time. So just another feedback mechanism that causes you to do what I just did there, was start asking questions. And you don't want to do this by yourself. You want to do this with your team, all the stakeholders together, put their heads together, decentralize the idea generation and the effort toward improvement. Other kinds of meetings, sales meetings. Also, what about, I just mentioned customer complaints. What about staff complaints? What about your HR department is receiving negative feedback or complaints about maybe a policy you have? Maybe people are feeling that there is something that's unfair that's being imposed upon them by management, or maybe there are dissension that breaks down. You get, what am I trying to say? You get a disgruntled employee, you get some sort of confrontation. There's what I'm trying to say. Some kind of confrontation between team members. And are you taking a look at this? Are you just hoping that reactively HR deals with this, make it go away? Or are you then later going, let's measure that and let's look, why did that occur? And start asking those good questions. It all starts with good questions. Now, I'm the big believer, that's why I've got about 3 or 4 videos on report cards. I'm a big believer that's where it should all be, because it forces you to address those things. It forces you to look at it. And by the way, we include a whole bunch of performance analytics within our report cards, but we don't have time to go through each and every one. So we weight them and they end up in a score. So you kind of work your way backwards. I'm not going to discuss that. You can watch the video on that. But what I want to say today is, if one of these other things, like your customer feedback mechanisms or your HR feedback mechanisms, your suggestions from your team, if those prove to be really valuable to you for stimulating good questions that lead towards management strategizing toward innovation and improving value, then by all means add those to your report cards. Take a look at, well, how many times was there a dispute among employees last month? And what were the reasons for that? That can go on a report card. You might say, well, how many things do you want on your report card? It's okay to add more and more. As I say, you don't go through everything each and every time, but you don't want to have a situation, here's what you want to avoid in your business, where there's no, in your mind, ostensibly there's no opportunity for improvement. Nothing is occurring to you. That's a scary place to be. It's a really comfortable place to be when you say, boy, I can think of 100 ways in which we can improve the business. That should give you confidence. I can also appreciate where it could be a little stressful, because you have a finite amount of resources and your time not the least of which. So it could be a little bit stressful to think, well, there's so many things I need to improve. But the opposite, where you can't think of a single thing you need to improve and you're not happy with your current results, that's a scary place to be. So I want to encourage you to always be looking for these feedback mechanisms and some sort of feedback loop that you in management can be stimulated to ask good questions, to find problems, because problems, of course, framed through a different lens, are all opportunities. These are challenges, opportunities for you to improve. So as I say, just one really quick sort of observation and anecdote that happened in that meeting led me to think, wow, this is a really important concept. And I know of a lot of businesses that are not formally scheduling, say, report card meetings or some of these other examples I gave. And therefore, what are they using? What are you using to stimulate good questions that lead to innovation, that lead to strategizing, to implementing improvement toward improving the value of your product or service in the marketplace, which is what it's all about. That's going to drive revenues, sales, profitability, and that's the name of the game. So that's where I want to leave it today, but I'm curious, what examples did I not give? What are you using in your organization to stimulate these discussions, to stimulate good questions? And or even leave a comment if you're like, actually we don't have anything, and you're looking for more suggestions. Maybe through people leaving comments back and forth, we can come up with more and more ideas of how you can formally add this to your organization and then find the time to implement those ideas in your business. So go ahead, please leave a comment that we can all learn from, because we need to learn from one another. Perpetual refinement.